If you're looking for all the answers, I don't have them. But what I do have is a particular set of skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people who misinform or mislead the sports card community. So if you don't do that, I'll let it go. That'll be all. But if you do, I will find you, and I will pursue you. Guys, welcome to another exciting episode of the Sports Card Investigator. My name is Andy. I am your host, and I am so happy to be here today. And today, we are going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, something that I actually enjoy doing, something that if you do will make you money if it's done correctly. It will not cause you stress. It will not cause you worry. It will not cause you anxiety. I promise. But a lot of that depends on how you approach the issue of, drum roll please, grading. But before we get into that, I want to bring something up to you guys. My last episode, I talked an overview about how to protect yourself in this industry. And unfortunately, I got bit by something almost right after I did that episode. It's kind of ironic. I don't really think it was a scam, although I talked to the people that are closest to me in this community, and they think it was a pretty shitty thing. So I'm going to share it with you, and you can tell me what you guys think, and it's actually going to benefit you in a weird way. So here we go. A short time after the episode, I got that alert on my phone, and I guess it's set up to whatever phone, but mine is at bring, right? And anytime I hear that thing, I get a little cringy, but I think I mentioned that in the last episode, but I got it, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So here's what it said, and I'm going to read it to you verbatim. Hi, I noticed a scratch on the PSA case after leaving feedback for the item. He left good feedback, by the way. I wanted to be in contact with you and let you know I requested a return so you would know what was going on. Let me know if you have any questions. And then I wrote back, if it's just on the case, you can send to PSA for a recase for $5. And I would be happy to refund you $50 for your trouble. Well, I knew that wasn't going to get me anywhere because I kind of knew where this was going. And then he wrote back, almost as if he didn't even read my response, and said, here are the photos. I forgot to include them in my previous message. I think I will wait for eBay to respond if you are not planning on accepting a return, since it reduces the value of the card and likely would not be accepted by StockX, where I plan on selling the card in the future. Thanks. Well, whatever. I'm not going to fight it. I called eBay. eBay said, well, if it will arrive damaged or not as described, you got to return it or it's going to be a ding on you. And I get it. And look, you guys know, before I send something, I look it over. And PSA cases, especially this PSA case that's 8 years old, they have tiny little micro scratches or dings or whatever. And he sent me pictures. And, if you hold it up to the sunlight at 3 p.m. at a 65-degree angle while you're standing on your head, you'll see the scratches. Kidding, of course, but it wasn't anything that I don't see all the time on PSA cases, and sometimes a lot worse. The case is the case. The card is not affected in any way. So I knew this was a loser. So I said, you know what? Send it back. And then add insult to injury. The card I had to pay for shipping. I actually gave him free shipping on this card because it just so happened to be a very expensive card. Now, like I was telling you guys before, I practice what I preach. I was watching, this was in the NBA playoffs, I was watching the playoffs, I was watching when these cards were going up. I had the 24-hour auction in here. I knew this guy was rising and rising and rising, so I put him on and I got a super high price. And I'm like, wow, okay, even better than I expected, but I'll take it. The interesting thing about this return, and me being skeptical, is this card coincided, the return coincided with this individual getting hurt and not playing anymore And subsequently, because this is a reactionary market that we can take advantage on if we read it correctly, if we're sellers, it affected this card value big time. 25-30%. It dropped. It dropped like a big rock, just boom, right? So I got the card back, and the card was, as he reaches behind him, this Damian Lillard rookie card, PSA 9. Beautiful card, right? And got it back, and I looked at it, and it had a couple scratches on it, sure, but me knowing, pro tip, here's a pro tip for you guys, and it's not, you know, it's not a pro tip from someone who's been doing this for 10 minutes. I've been doing it for a while. I got the case back. I don't have it next to me, but it's called Meguiar's Plast X. You buy it at the store. It's for headlights to get the scratches out. It shines them up real nice. You put a little dab will do ya. Google it. Little dab on the card. Rub it in. Look at it. Rub it in. Look at it. You're good to go. And the card is now perfect. Perfect. I'm going to call these cards boomerang cards because I throw it out there and whoop, they come right back to you, right? Not this one though, because this card is going to find a forever home because I don't want it back. I want it to go to someone who will appreciate it, not because of just its value, which I get is important, but someone who really appreciates this card for what it is. And I don't want it back. And I'm not going to get it back because I'm going to give it away. I'm going to give it away to someone out there, to one of you guys or gals, because you've been supporting me over the last couple months I've been doing this. It's been fun, and I just want to say thank you. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. Maybe we'll do something on Instagram, we'll do something on YouTube. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I'll talk to some people. The best way to do it. It's a great card, and I want someone to have it. And I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate you. Be on the lookout. As I said before, there's nothing we can do with these boomerangs because all these guys have to do is say, I don't want the card, it's damaged, and you're on the hook. So, all right. With that, today we're going to talk about a very, very interesting topic. I've seen a lot of videos on these. And some of the prep videos that I've watched are fine. There's no issue how to clean a card and get it ready. But these videos don't go into a very important subject when it comes to grading. And that is, should you even grade the card, right? Now, I'm going to go over everything, soup to nuts, from how we're picking the card out, how we're prepping it for grading, how we're packaging it. I'm going to walk you through the website with PSA. You name it, it's going to be on there. I'm going to get my crack producer at Ty Eisman to put some see, that was a Freudian slip, time stamps on there. So if you ever have to come back and say, hey, he mentioned this, where is it on there? And we'll list it out for you. And if I miss anything, because I'll tell you what, guys, I've had to come back and redo this a couple times because, like, after I'm done, something comes up and I want it to be included in this video. Things change every day with grading. So I just want to make sure that you have everything. But if there's any questions or comments or concerns, just hit me on Instagram or in the comment section and I will get back to you, I promise, because this is important. And this is where really we can make some good money if we do it correctly. Okay? So let's walk through the whole grading process. Now, full disclosure, and I'm always trying to be as honest as I can with you guys, is I grade hundreds of cards. Hundreds. And I do multiple submissions every month. And they range from value, which is your bulk, used to be bulk, now it's called value, to economy, to regular, to express, to I've even done some walkthroughs, right? So for this exercise, I'm going to walk you through the PSA, how to grade through PSA. Now you can apply this to either Beckett or SGC. It doesn't matter. Everything's basically the same as far as the preparation, how you're going to choose the card. The only difference would be actually doing the submission, but I'm going to walk you through a PSA submission. So let's talk about some of the topics that I believe are very important when it comes to grading, and a lot of the videos that I reviewed just don't go over them, and I think it's very important. So before we go to the trouble of examining the card and prepping it for grading, ask yourself a simple question, right? Should I grade the card? It's simple, right? Well, from the videos I was reviewing, both very recent and some not so recent, they talk about grading the card on condition alone, and there's so much more to grading than that. You could have the most pristine, perfect card, hand it in for grading, it can come back as a PSA 10 gem mint, and it's a paperweight. We don't want paperweights. We want cards that are valued, that make fiscal sense for our grading. I was watching a video the other day, and he was saying, the person who was doing it was saying, well, if I grade, I intend to get at least 3, 4, or 5 times back on my money. Well, if it's a $4 card, that does not make sense, right? You have to make fiscal sense when we're grading, and you're going to see me hit back on that over and over because I want to drive that home. If it does not make fiscal sense to grade the card, do not grade the card. It can't be any more clear than that, because I've seen that. And we don't want to have cards that are just not worth it. You're throwing away your money. So here's some of the questions that I get. Is there a guarantee that if you grade a card, any card, and that card will increase in value? It depends. Most of the time, sure. But as I said before, does it increase enough to make sense? Well, don't all graded cards rise and are more valuable than raw cards? And for the most part, yes, what we just talked about. You can grade a card from, say, $3 and it jumps to $18. Well, that's great. Well, not if you're paying $15 to grade the card. And as long as I get a PSA 9 or better, I'm golden, even an 8. Well, not always, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But as long as I pick promising rookies or great players, I'm golden, right? Well, again, that really just depends on the player, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. All right, so first let's take a look at a couple cards and see if they are worth grading or not. So first slide you're going to see is a population report of a 1989 NBA Hoops Michael Jordan card. And for those of you who are not familiar with the population reports, they're simply that. They just tell you the population of the card in the public, of the graded card. Okay? So this report will tell you how many of a certain card by grade is in population. So we could see by this slide that there are 2,326 PSA 10s and 3,952 PSA 9s. Very low populations if you think about it, because the card is more than 30 years old. So some of us might assume that because of this low population, we should be in good shape if we find a decent card to grade. Well, not so fast. Before we plan to buy that beach house, because last time we were at Dad's, we found 25 of these cards in a shoebox, there are some things that come into play. Okay, you are looking live, actually on tape, of a beautiful card ladder graph of that same 1989 NBA Hoops Michael Jordan card. And as you can see, the graph illustrates some important things. The price history of the card, the starting price, the current price, and the average price. So if we went ahead and graded all of these cards and they all came back as PSA 10s, that would not be horrible at all, right? A good chunk of change. Maybe not enough to buy that beach house, but good money nonetheless. But why is it that that card is worth only $138 or whatever it is, and not more? Well, remember, the population report only tells you of the amount of cards graded in the population, the total population. And without getting really into the weeds of this, sports cards went through a junk wax era period where there were a tremendous amount of cards produced. So we can assume, because we did our due diligence and homework, that there are a lot more of those cards out there that are not graded than have been graded, thus lowering the demand for the card, right? And another thing we have to remember is, before we would grade that card, what else do we have to look for? Well, we should look for what a PSA 9 goes for. Because if a PSA 9 is not financially sound, then we should have second thoughts about grading. I always look at what a PSA 9 is. And if those ratios aren't good, then I have to rethink it, right? Or I have to be really positive that that card's going to be a 10. Now you could see that if we graded all those cards and they came back as 9s, minus the $20 for grading, shipping, insurance, we're breaking even, or we're possibly even losing money. Now, I will admit to you that population reports definitely have a place in the hobby. And I use them sometimes, but not that much with modern cards. Because I grade a lot on speculation and potential of a player. But I thought that was a worthy illustration. Now, I always cringe sometimes when I'm watching these influencers base grading on population reports alone. And it should be a consideration, like I stated before, but not your only consideration. What I look for when I grade a card are three things: supply, demand, and speculation. And by speculation, what I'm grading that player on potential, right? I think he's going to explode next year, or maybe even another year down the line. But those are things that I have to look for when I grade a card. Let's take a quick look at an example. You see the population report on the screen of Carson Edwards. Good young player for the Celtics, right? The population report for his PSA 10s at the time of this episode was 44. Let's get him graded. Bank, we're in business. Well, not so fast. Because if we're looking to grade that card and to sell it, probably not the best idea. Because we're not even going to break even with him. We're probably going to lose money. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of grading if we're going to sell a card for less than what it costs to grade. But, on the other hand, if you were looking at him and speculating that his card was going to potentially go up later on down the line, then there's no reason to grade and hold. And I do that all the time. And thirdly, if you're out there because you're looking for Carson Edwards and you come across a PSA 10 and it's $24 and you believe that he has a potential to do well in the future, then that's an automatic buy for you because you're buying at a cost and you cannot get any better than that. So keep that in mind. There are countless examples of players who you could have picked up at a good price like that, below grading cost, and it could have paid off. So always be aware of that. This guy up on the screen now, Michael Porter Jr., he had tons of factors against him, right? If you believed in him, you could have picked him up for less the cost of grading, and even not so far back, a little bit more than what the grading would cost, maybe 25-30% more. And when you did that, you could be reaping the rewards now, right? I mean, that's our goal. That is our goal when we grade, is to be ahead of the game. We don't want to wait for these influencers to tell you who to buy and when to buy it. What we want to do is we want to have that card in hand when these guys say, oh, well, I think that it's a good time to buy. You know, he's almost at his peak, but not quite. So if we buy him now, we still can make a little bit of money. I go the opposite. I actually love it. I watch these guys and they're like, oh, well, you know, I think Damian Lillard, he's really should be, he's a good buy now. And then I go, oh, let me go check. Oh, here's my Damian Lillards. Let's put them up for sale, because I know all these followers of these influencers are going to go out hunting for Damian Lillards. I'll just put it on an auction and watch it go. It's awesome. And you will too. That's the goal. So back to grading, right? So we've evaluated our cards, not physically yet, we're going to do that soon, but financially, right? Remember, we don't ever want to intentionally waste money. And that's different. If you want to take a calculated risk and gamble on a player, so be it. You know, as I said before, I do that from time to time. No problem with that at all. There's an old adage that you should never gamble with more money than you're willing to lose. And that's true, right? But remember, I want to make it clear, right? It's your money and it's your cards to grade. So if you're willing to put up the money to grade the card and take the risk, then by all means, do it. My advice would just make sure that it's worthwhile. And the last thing I'd want to say is, you know, never grade cards that you're going to get back and they're going to become paperweights. And I have a few where they're just not sellable, right? Okay, done preaching. Okay, here are my golden rules for the preparation of a card for grading. It's real easy. Centering, surface, corners, and framing. That's it. If that's good, you're good to go. I don't care what anyone says. If your centering is good, your surface is good, your corners are good, your frame, the outside square of the card, that's all good, then you're good to go. No questions asked, right? This is not rocket science. This is not a stressful situation, nor should it be. If it is, it's not for you, okay? This should be fun. Think of it as a challenge, right? And I understand that if it's the first time you're doing this, it could be intimidating. It was for me. I mean, I grade hundreds of cards, right? Thousands in a year. But just do it. Have a process and follow it and be confident, right? And I'll tell you, if you inspect that card, and we're going to go through physically how you inspect it, and you're going to know if that card is submissible or not, if that's a word. And just don't think about, you know, cheating the system by sliding in, you know, a bad card, thinking that, oh, it's going to work for me. You're not going to see it. It's not that big of a deal, and it's going to get a good grade, because that's not what we want. We want grading to be something that enhances the value of the card. We want them to be hard on our cards, right? We want them to have, and we want this community and this sports card, you know, industry to have integrity, and that's important. So think about that. Okay, and take a look at this John Moran card. To the naked eye, we can see it failed our test, right? Centering is off. Well, you tell me. What? Look at it. What do you think? Right. Centering is off and the surface is off. And I don't need a high definition magnifying glass or a special light or anything else to know that this baby is not good. I mean, who would even think about submitting that card? Really? Would you submit that card? That surface issue is enough for me to say, nope, not going to do it. Which reminds me, I've heard this on so many videos and it drives me crazy. I just heard it the other day. And it's this unproven hypothesis where people they continue to promote this practice of putting in a bad card in front of a good card. For some reason, they think that it's going to make the grader psychologically think that the next card is going to be better. Now we've turned into psychiatrists or, mentalist or so whatever. It's ridiculous, right? I will guarantee you this. If you put a crap card in front of a good card, the crap card's going to get a lower grade than the card behind it. That's common sense. That's not psychology. Take it from someone who submitted hundreds of cards. I've never done that, and I never will. Okay? This strategy is based on speculation and backed up with no facts. That's something to go with. And if someone can produce me, to me, a grader or graders, because guess what? More than one person looks at your card. Thinking that one person is taking your card through the system, that's a misnomer. That's non-factual, right? And how do we know it's not going to have an opposite effect? How do we know that someone's going to look at it and say, this guy doesn't know what they're doing psychologically, and be like, oh, it's crap, the rest of his submission's crap. Anyway, just take the money and throw it out the window, because that's all we're doing with that. And that's what we don't want to do, is to waste money. One other thing before we get into the preparation. Minimum grades. I have heard arguments on both sides, and I will tell you that this is not a complicated question. This is an easy question to answer. For ultra-modern cards from 2017 to present, I will always ask for a minimum grade of 9. Every day that ends in the letter Y. Okay? Quite simply, ultra-modern cards with a grade of 8 are worth less than raw cards. And why do you want to deal with that? Oh, we'll just send it. I'll just crack the case and I'll just put it on eBay. Yeah, let me know how that works out for you. You get that case and you crack out that case and you put the card on eBay. Why? You still spent the money. Now you just risk ruining the card, cracking it out of a case. Minimum grade, PSA 9. You are free to do what you guys want, but people have asked my opinion on that, and that is my opinion. I will go with a PSA 9 minimum grade every single time. Now, if you have an older card and you do your research and it says, PSA 7, PSA 6, I have a PSA 3, right? But to me, that's worth it. You just have to do your due diligence. I always like to where you'll go on eBay and you'll see like a Zion Williamson PSA 4, rare. Yeah, no crap. It's got a population of 2 because you and some other knucklehead were the only ones that decided to grade a PSA 4. Anyway, so let's now take a look at the actual process for prepping a card. All right, guys, welcome to the prep studio for submissions of the Sports Card Investigator. You can duplicate this setup for very, very cheap. Dirt cheap, you could do it. All kidding aside, black tablecloth, Joann's or Michael's, piece of foam, Joann's or Michael's. I say Joann's or Michael's because if I need something, I know my wife's going to go to Joann's or Michael's at least once a week. I tag along and then I block out that experience as quickly as humanly possible. So, a couple things before we start. One, people say to me, what do you do with cards that you're not going to grade and you're not going to sell? Because sometimes you just get cards you don't know what to do with. For me, it's easy. My wife's a special education professional, so she takes the cards in with her for the kids. They love the cards and she sets up different activities. Or I send some to my son out in California. He's a basketball coordinator out there, does a lot of basketball stuff with the kids, and he uses these as prizes, and it keeps our community growing, which is great. Okay, so here you see a Marcus Mariota select card. I am not grading him. Okay, this is just for demonstration purposes only. So we can go over some of the things that we should look for when we're trying to figure out whether or not we're going to send the card forward. One of the things that I did not mention yet, and I mentioned in all my videos, you know my background. I was a special agent for DEA for 26 years. How does this correlate with that profession? Because everything I tell you does have correlation. Well, this one's pretty easy. When we would do search warrants, we would go in and we would gather evidence, and that evidence would be evaluated. And from that evaluation, we would see where it fits in the case and how it helps our case. What are we doing here? We are evaluating the card. And if it passes our evaluation by different tests, then we will forward it for grading, and that will make us fiscally better. So, with that said, let's take a look at our 4-prong test. First off, centering. Now, I can see by the naked eye that this card is off center. And it is off center, meaning that it's not centered. But the left side is heavier than the right side. And you'll hear me say that sometimes. You may hear other people say it, left heavy, right heavy, top heavy, bottom heavy. If I say that this card is left heavy, it just means that there's more card on the left than the right. And we don't want that. That is something that will get marked down off right away. Next, let's look at the surface. Well, I can see with my naked eye that there are some surface issues. I also have my handy dandy Michael's or Joann's, I don't know, I don't care, magnifying glass that I picked up for $5 or $6. I'll bring this closer to you guys so you can see. There are a little bit of surface issues that you might be able to see or maybe not with the naked eye. But there are some issues. And then up top, take a look at the bottom. And you can also see that there's a bit of an issue in the corner, but we'll talk about that, as well as some other surface issues. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, in looking at the card, the corners aren't terrible, but we already picked up some surface issues. It's off center, so we know this is not going to be a gradable card. But for demonstration purposes, let's flip it over and see what the other side looks like. And we can see that, again, it is heavier on the right side than the left, right? Oh, important, centering. I was talking to the developers and owners of an application called Dead Center App, and I've been giving them a lot of feedback, and these guys have been super receptive to what I have been telling them. So I'm going to actually show you that app after this and give a quick demonstration. And it's just another tool for our toolbox when we're doing our evaluation. So I wanted to mention that because I do like it. Okay, so if we're looking at this card, we can see right there we have an issue, right? We have a bad corner. And not only that, we have a bad framing where you could see the bottom here. I'm going to mess it up. Okay. The bottom here, as well as the corners, are just no-goes. And also you can see at the top, same thing, right? So this card, obviously, is not going to meet our criteria for grading. But I wanted just to point that out to you real quick. And then let me show you something else for a surface issue that might stand out a little bit more. We have Mr. Wilt Chamberlain, and you can see right there, right? Those little bumps and bruises. That's a bad surface issue, and that's going to be a disqualifying no matter what, every day. That ends in Y, which we talked about before. And then finally, Mr. Devontae Adams. I don't know if you'll be able to see this guy, but he's definitely, oh, you see it right there? Surface issue. And if you look at Devontae too, while we have him out, you can see that he is definitely right heavy on the right side than the left, correct? And then also, he is top heavy. More, see that? And if you flip them over, again, this is just for demonstration purposes. I'm not being very careful with the card. They're not gradable cards, but I just want to show you guys. Right heavy compared to the left side. Right? So you kind of get the idea what we're looking for, right? So let's just say for argument's sake that Mr. Marcus Mariota has passed our test. He's perfect. And we're going to clean him and get him ready for the prep for packing him and getting him off to PSA. So I do this a couple ways, and I'm leaving it up to you. The one thing that I never want to do is, and I've seen this on a video recently, is if I clean the card, I pick the card up like this, and then I do that. I don't like that because it's just too much, could go wrong. What I do is I put the card down flat on the microfiber cloth, right? And I take the microfiber in the other hand and I just hold it down, and then we just wipe the card down. You don't have to be really nervous or scared. Another surface issue there. Surface scared about it. It's pretty sturdy. Just clean it nice. And then we want to get the top part or the bottom part. And then more importantly, always flip the card over, because remember, both sides are equally important. Now, if you want to use your breath, I see people do that. If you see something that you're not sure it's a surface issue, maybe it's just a piece of wax or schmutz or whatever, then you can go ahead and breathe on it. But quite honestly, I hardly ever do that. Then, after we think it's clean, we take our Ultra Pro card sleeve. I am not affiliated nor are compensated by Ultra Pro. I take the card, gingerly open up the card sleeve, put it in, card sleeve. Then I take a Card Saver 1. What about a Card Saver 2? Well, PSA sells Card Saver 1s. I guess you could use Card Saver 2s. Whatever you can get your hands on these days are rare. Grab them, use them. Open it up, and we're going to take the card, put it in, and then gingerly put it in. Boom, done, and we are good to go. And there you have it. Hi guys, this is what I wanted to show you guys. This is the Dead Center app. People asked me about it. I discovered it on one of the Discord channels or one of the forums. Someone was talking about it. I went on, I looked at it. I like it. It's being tweaked very regularly because the people that run it I've been in contact with and giving them my feedback, and they have been very, very good in listening and just trying to make this the best centering app that they can. And so far, so good. I like it. So this is just another tool for our toolbox, and I wanted to just demonstrate to you real quick on how it works. Dead Center app, when you bring it up, you're going to get this screen. You can read the centering grade key, how to, all that stuff. And this is all obviously the social media that they're on. But let's just cut to the chase. Scan my card. Now, my phone is up on a boom stand, so it's above the card steady. I've used it where I've actually used it on a computer picture of a card. So just so you guys know, I'm going to touch Start Scan because I'm recording my screen. And there it is. It automatically looks at the card and boom, there it is. That's pretty good. You can go in there with your finger and manipulate the lines, getting them as close as possible, but I don't want to really screw it up. I just want to give you a look what it is. So I'm going to hit Next. The card comes up, and then I'm going to hit Done. And there it is. And then basically you see the grid. And it's kind of cool, right? Now you can see right off the bat how the one side is heavier than the other, right? And again, another tool for our toolbox. I always think of work smarter. Sometimes, you do things that takes a lot of time and it's not necessarily better. So I always try to, my old adage is work smarter sometimes and harder. It'll save you time and you'll get the same result, if not better. So that is the Dead Center app. Take a look at it and just let me know what you think. And actually let the people who develop the app know what you think, because they're trying to make it better all the time. All right, guys. So you just saw how we prep a card for submission to PSA. So we're good to go, right? Well, we are. But I want to go into some stuff that you don't really hear a lot about. And I think it'll shed some light on the whole process of when a card leaves your possession and goes into PSA. So, you know, it's an 8-step process. And a lot of people are like, well, we send it in, it's graded, it comes back. But let me just take a second and go over what happens once that card leaves your possession. So, step 1, your submission has arrived and is reviewed and counted and verified. Simple, right? Well, keep in mind, and we'll talk about this in a little bit again, that it could take about 3 weeks or so for once your item arrives at PSA for it to actually get inputted into the system. So if you send something and then you get a thing from the U.S. Postal Service or FedEx and say, hey, it arrived at PSA on this date, don't worry about it, for 3 weeks or so, give or take, before they'll even have it logged into the system. And you can track everything on the computer system, and you'll actually go through this 8-step process. So the second stage, once the item is checked in, the submission is logged in to the grading system and is ready for processing. That's the second part. The third part is your submission is being researched, so each item can be correctly identified for the PSA label. Step 4, your submission is actually going through an authentication and grading process. All right, so that's step 4. Step 5, PSA labels will be printed and each eligible item will be sonically sealed within the PSA holder. All right. Next, your grades will be reviewed a second time for accuracy. Now, this is important because you may fool one guy, but it's got to go through with 2 sets of eyes. And in fact, in this process, I would believe it's going through a lot of different eyes in the whole system. Next, your labels are reviewed for errors and holders are examined for defects. That is the quality check number 2. And then finally, it's shipped off. Now, I will tell you from my experience that after it leaves the research ID and it's in the grading process, things will begin to pick up. And then once it hits that assembly, your anticipation should grow because the card should go quick after that, or at least that's my experience. Now, if you're grading, like I have like 262 and then another 150, it takes a while. But if you throw in 4 or 5 cards on a regular submission or even an express, you can obviously expect it to go faster. So and one other thing on the prep, I really didn't mention this much. It lays it out on the PSA website exactly how you're supposed to prep the card, and if you go on there, it'll say the steps. Don't do anything extra. I've heard of people putting tabs on the penny sleeves. I mean, I don't know. I've never done that. If that's something you want to do, I mean, it takes more time. I don't know if it's necessary or not, honestly. The other thing is, don't put top loaders in there. Don't put screw down holders. Don't do anything that may upset the Apple Cart. And as we actually go through I'm going to walk you through how you do a submission on the computer. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's look at the grading process itself before we get going. A series of PSA graders review your cards for authenticity. If genuine, right? So PSA will look for evidence of doctoring such as recoloring, trimming. Guys, I know none of you ever do that stuff, or none of you try. Don't do that. Submit the card, and after we went through our evaluation process, if you feel the card is good for evaluation, send it through, right? You've done your work. You're confident in your work. Send it through. If the cards get through that step, then PSA grades the condition of the card on a scale of 1 to 10, and we all want that 10. And then after grading, the PSA holders each card in its own tamper-evident case. Interesting words. A label within the case displays the card, pertinent information, and unique certification number, which we spoke about. Okay, so now we are ready to actually go through the process of submitting the card. So we have to go online, and make that submission. Again, this is not rocket science. It's not hard. It's really easy, guys. Now, before we get into that, there are 3 levels of membership you can get with PSA. There is, and it's up on the screen now, there's silver, there's gold, and there's platinum. And it ranges from $59 for your silver membership up to $249. Now, you do get certain perks with the memberships. The silver is $59. You're going to get a 1-year subscription to their Collectors Club, to their magazine. And what that allows you to do, along with the other memberships, is to do value grading or value submission. Because if you don't have a membership, either of those 3 that you see up there, then you still can submit your cards, but you can't use the value or the bulk submission. I grade a lot of cards every year, so it's a no-brainer to me. I just get the platinum membership. You get 15 grading vouchers with that. So 15 times 20, I mean, it kind of makes fiscal sense, and that's what we're always looking for, right? So then after we have our membership, or not, I mean, if you're not going to do, a bulk, then you can do whatever. We're going to go on to the online submission center, which is, and this is really user-friendly, guys. Really user-friendly. So, once you get going, it's easy. So right there, you see, you're going to build your submission. You hit start, boom, and then it brings you to the next screen. Now, look at the top right. It says, PSA has experienced high volume of submissions. As a result, submission process times have been impacted. From the time of delivery, it will take 3 to 4 weeks to enter your submission. So that's what I'm saying. Don't panic if you know it arrived and it's been 2 or 3 weeks, okay? And second, don't call. I mean, you can call. I mean, they're super responsive when I've called them on occasion. But I've always emailed them, and within 3 or 4 days, usually, sometimes more, you'll get a response, right? It's just, it is what it is. We know what's going on, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on. So, just try not to upset the apple cart. If you do, that's on you, but that's just my advice. Pro tip. Okay, so then we're going to pick the type of card that we're going to submit, right? I hate when I say right all the time. Regular or small card, the first one, okay? Then you're going to get to the next screen, and it's going to say grading, all right? So grading, and then we're going to hit no autograph, authentication. If we're doing a card with an autograph, then yeah, you would do that. And another thing, if you're submitting a card with an autograph and you ask for a minimum grade, and we'll talk about minimum grades again in a second, make sure that you put a minimum grade for both items. This actually happened to me, where I put a card in and I said a minimum grade of 9, and I got it back not graded because I don't know whether the autograph didn't pass or the card. And that was my fault. So you'll see a notes, and when we go through this, just indicate any question or any comment on the notes as to avoid any confusion. The next step will come up. You can pick anything you want. You can pick, there's walkthrough premium, super premium. I just did this for demonstration purposes. I picked economy, and you'll notice that the declared value is $500, and it's a $20 grade. Now you can look down and you can see the ultra modern cards, which is above that, is the declared value is $99, and it's $15 or over $112. Anyway, for this purpose, we're going to grade economy, and we're just going to click that button. Then you're going to get this screen that comes up. Now, again, this is easy. Just start typing in the name of the card. And what I do it is exactly how it pops up on the PSA site, right? So I had a 2019 Cam Reddish, and I think I was using a silver. So I would punch in just like this: basketball cards, 2019 Cam Reddish, Prism, silver. There it is, and you hit it, and it pops up, and there it is. Then I go to the minimum grade. Now, as we spoke about this before, do your research, but I always put a minimum grade of 9. And we spoke earlier in the video about why I do that. And then it'll have a little video that'll come up if you want to see it, and it describes about the minimum grade. You just have to check off that you read it to ensure you know that you're the minimum grade. If it doesn't come back as that minimum grade, then you're going to get the card back in the sleeve that it was submitted in, and you'll see like a little sticker that they put on it. Declared value. Next we see the declared value, and for whatever reason this seems to be a bone of contention with a lot of people of what to use as the declared value. And as luck would have it, PSA came out with a blog recently explaining factors that go into their declared value. So on the blog they mentioned a couple things, and I'm going to read to you what they said, and then I'll kind of get into a little bit to explain what I think of when I'm reading this. So 2 things of note regarding declared value. First, declared value has no effect on the grade of the card receives, which it shouldn't. Every card should be judged on its own. However, declaring a high value for a card will not result in the card receiving a higher grade. Makes perfect sense. Graders, this is interesting. Graders do not have access to the declared value or the fee paid for grading the card. They're just grading. Nothing's going to sway them. They look at the card. And graders assess the authenticity and condition of the card, not in the manner of which it was submitted. Makes great sense. Second, submitting a low declared value in hopes of paying a reduced grading fee may actually harm the submitter by reducing the amount of protection. And this is important. If you're going to submit Luca on a value under $99 and put a declared value of $40, and God forbid PSA, has something happens, I mean, they're human, or it gets lost in the mail, that declared value is what you're going to get reimbursed for. So keep that in mind. And then it goes on to say, PSA has very high standards to ensure that no damage, we just talked about this, no damage is done to your card while it's in their care, but they're human and accidents happen on occasion. In such a case, declared value is taken into consideration when determining proper replacement value. Submitting a low value would be like undervaluing your home to get a lower insurance premium. You're not tricking the insurance company into lower premiums, but rather accepting inferior protection in the unlikely event of an issue. It's funny. It's kind of like speeding, right? We all speed, right? Every once in a while you'll speed. But if you don't get caught, no one cares. So if you're just going to gamble that nothing will ever happen to your cards, then let your conscience be your guide, right? People have also told me, well, declared value is what the card is raw. Well, if you read what the declared value is, and it's up on your screen now, the declared value is your estimate of the value of the item it has after it has been assigned a grade by PSA. We understand you will not know the true value. We ask that you do a realistic, educated estimate based on your own research, keeping in mind that the declared value acts as a maximum value for shipping insurance purposes in the event of a claim related to this item. Okay, so I always look at it. So here's an example. The Cam Reddish Silver Prism PSA 10 sold for, and you'll see it up on the screen, $449. Now, if you get a 10, great. If you get a 9, it's probably going to be less than that, way less than that. So you can see I put a declared value of $300. That's probably a little bit more. But again, let your conscience be your guide. A lot of questions I see after these videos, people asking about declared value. Declared value is a value declaring of the card. Okay? And then you'll hit save, and it'll drop down. You can see the description of the card. You can see the pricing as it goes on. Now, do you see underneath where it says submission, comments, requests? Make sure if you have any issues regarding that, or any that you want them to see, just write it in there, right? Just write the name of the card in there and write your question or whatever, and that's always good. Better leave it up to no chance if you have a question. This the same thing if you're doing an autograph. You could put in there, hey, I put in a minimum grade of 9, but the autograph, I don't care, right? Something like that. Just make sure. And then you load all your cards in the same way. You know, it could be 10, 100, 50, whatever. You hit next. And you're going to end up on this next level, which is basically the end of it. And you just put everything that it asks you for. All right. You'll put a credit card in. They will not charge your card until the grading is complete. So make sure that you budget for that. Okay. All right, guys. Just wanted to show you real quick our last step. After you go through everything on your computer submission, you print everything out. Basically, you'll see PSA copy 1, PSA copy 2, and then a customer copy along with the list of everything you're submitting. Just make sure that when you submit the cards, they're in the same order and they're all correct as the order that is on your submission list. And then you would basically pack up your PSA copy 1, PSA copy 2, the submission list. I always make a copy for myself and send that along. When you submit the cards, your last step is you get the cards that you're going to put in your submission, ensuring that they are all present and accounted for and all in the same order as your list says. And then depending on how many you have and whatever is a comfortable amount, you take them and then you get 2 pieces of cardboard. This is all on the website. You put cardboard 1, put your cards down, cardboard on top, and then you secure that cardboard with rubber bands. And that's exactly what it shows inside of the website. Don't get them too tight to cinch them down. I overkill it. Just make sure you put enough in there that they will not, you know, move around so much. And then what I do is I number each one. If I have like 15 or 20 different packages inside all in the same submission, I make it easier for the people when they check them in, and I'll put number 1. And then when they look on the list, they'll see Marcus Mariota, boom, 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 boom. They'll open it up, check it in, and it's up. There's Marcus Mariota and everybody else underneath. You then, after this is together, put it in a box with peanuts, secure it, make sure you get enough insurance on it when you send it, and then you are on your way. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Kind of everything you needed to know about grading, but were afraid to ask. There were a couple things that during the making of this video, if you believe it, actually happened during the video. One of the things was that PSA kind of revamped their way that they're shipping stuff off. Everything remains the same that I talked about in the video. The only difference is they kind of made it a little easier, where before, when the box would come in, when you would send the box out, you would have to put the level of service on the box, like regular, economy, or whatever it is. Now they actually give you a barcode that when you submit for grading, you actually put that barcode on the box. And I guess once the box is received at PSA, it is then sent to its proper location, and it's easier on the, I guess, for them for the barcode, because I guess the submission's on there and everything else. So that changed a little bit. A couple other things I want to mention before I end this. And I know I hit it hard, you know, coming through the entire video about knowing what to grade or what not to grade. That's never been more important than now, because we all know that with all the grading companies, they're really backed up. So I know everyone wants to save money and be fiscally sensible. So if you're going to go through a submitter on a value, or even if you're doing a bulk submission or a value on your own, say with 50 cards or whatever it is, don't think you're going to get those cards back for 6 to 7 months. And, you know, after a lot of consideration and thought, I don't think I can do that anymore, because how I grade cards, I need them back in a certain amount of time. I mean, hypothetically, if I grade, say I get a Joe Burrow's rookie card, and I want to get that graded, and then I wait till I have a certain amount of cards and I send that off, I'm not going to get that back in time. So now I have to consider the value of that card and what grading level I'm going to send it So 1, is it worth grading? 2, is the ratio, and we always look at ratios between what a PSA 9 is and a PSA 10, is that worth it? Because now we're going up in grading level to maybe economy at the very least, which is going to be probably a 3-month grade, and that's going to be a $20 grade, or up to a regular, a $50 grade, or to Express, a $75 grade. Now for Express, you're not going to get that much of a delay. You're going to get it back probably within, I would say 3 weeks, because they're still running behind on actually getting the card in. But when I was looking at the website, it was showing that the upper value grading, regular or Express or Super Express and higher, there aren't delays. It's just on that value and economy and regular. So keep that in mind. I just don't know. Really going to have to try to see what makes most sense for you when grading, if indeed it is worth it, and what level you're going to use. Confusing, I know, but it's just a matter of urgency of getting the card back, timing, and be able to get that card up for sale if that's what you want. If you're investing in a card and you don't care because you're going to hold it, that doesn't matter. Okay, it's just for investing, and we talked about in an earlier video about capitalizing on this reactionary market, which it is total reactionary at this point. So Josh Jacobs has a great game. You want to have Josh Jacobs ready to put up, right? And capitalize on that. Okay. So a couple other things. One, if you don't already, check out Sports Card Analytics. He's a guy I go to when I need some information. He's on Instagram, he's on YouTube, tons of great information. Definitely check him out. Sports Card PT, he's on Instagram, he just did Twitter. Rumor has it he might be doing a YouTube, so we'll see. We'll keep pushing him to do that because his information regarding injuries and how they affect the market is outstanding. And then finally, Brett at Stacking Slabs, which reminds me, there may be an occasion where you guys may want to look at just buying a graded card. I don't do that hardly at all because I grade cards, but Brett has another philosophy and he will buy a lot of graded cards, and he actually did a podcast on that, so I'd highly recommend checking out Stacking Slabs because he's got so much good information. Those 3 guys, there's no secret, they're part of my inner circle. They're the people that I go to when I have questions, when I have concerns, when I'm just frazzled or need information. So I would definitely recommend those guys. That's it for now. A lot of information. I hope you got something out of it. I enjoyed doing it for you. If you liked it, redundancy. Hit the like button if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel. As I said before, I'm going to try to figure out a way how to give away Mr. Dame Lillard. I still have to figure that out, and maybe I'll brainstorm it with those 3 guys. Maybe we'll do something in conjunction with them. I don't know. Anyway, until next time, take care.